Good evening, everyone. How are we all tonight? Thank you for being here. We're going to call this meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. on March 20th. I'm going to read something before I do our Pledge of Allegiance. I need my eyeballs. Sorry. I welcome all of you tonight here for our council meeting in which we conduct the business of the city. And I want to remind everyone that for the city's rules of decorum, all speakers, members of the audience, and council members are to conduct themselves with decorum and not to engage in conduct that interrupts the orderly conduct of the meeting. Prior to calling up our honored guests and conduct the Pledge of Allegiance, I want to take this time to address an issue which has been repeatedly brought to the council's attention, and that is inserting vocal, personal statements upon the conclusion of the Pledge of Allegiance. First, the council understands the constitutional right of free speech, and we have all sworn an oath to protect it. That right of free speech and all of our other constitutional protections are the result of the sacrifice of others who have defended our flag and through it, our nation. The city council meeting is a public forum which allows for public comment at a designated place in the agenda, at which time members of the public can speak on items not listed on the agenda and which within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. We always show respect to the public when you voice your opinion, and in return, I ask that you show respect to others. And related to this issue, to those who are conducting the Pledge of Allegiance by not inserting your personal opinion after the pledge. It is disrespectful to those conducting the pledge, disrespectful to those who have sacrificed their lives to defend the flag, and disrespectful to those who are present here. You will have your time to make your opinion known in public comments. I thank you. And tonight we are very pleased to announce once again to have our proud veterans, Maria McKinney, Staff Sergeant, conduct the Pledge of Allegiance for us tonight. Staff Sergeant, if you please. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Mr. Domer, we have roll call, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Kashif-Fagita,
Here, sir.
Councilmember Johnson, Councilmember Lau, Mayor Pro Tem Crosby,
Here.
and Mayor Hepburn.
Present.
All members present, sir.
Thank you. Tonight we have three presentations. The first will be an introduction of the new Bonita Unified School District Superintendent by his board members. The second is a proclamation declaring March as Red Cross Month. And third is the recognition of the recipients of the Jack Huntington and Jim Scranton Pride of Laverne Awards. To begin, I would like to introduce Glenn Kryman, the Bonita Unified School Board President. If you'd come on up, Glenn. To introduce their new superintendent, also in attendance is Board Vice President Greg Pilato, Board Clerk Chris Ann Horsley, Board Member Jim Elliott. Thank you all for coming. Mr. Kryman, it's your pleasure to welcome you to our meeting. Please begin.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I have the honor on behalf of the school board to formally introduce you tonight to the new superintendent of schools for Bonita Unified School District, Mr. Matthew Ween. Mr. Ween served as the district's interim superintendent from July 2022 through January 2023. Mr. Ween's extensive administrative experience includes service in the Bonita Unified School Districts in the positions of assistant principal, assistant superintendent of educational services, and interim superintendent. And I believe they were at Roinen and Ramona, so he served on this side of the district. His educational background includes a Bachelor of Arts degree and a master's degree from Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana. When the superintendent vacancy occurred, it was just 4 months before the 2022 election. And as a board, we decided to wait until after the election to make a permanent appointment. We knew we were going to have at least one new board member and possibly three, and we wanted them to have input in the decision and get some input from our community. With one new board member being a former colleague of Matt's and the work Matt was doing as the interim, the only comment we got are, what are we waiting for? So it was with great pleasure I introduce you to the superintendent of Bonita Unified School District, Mr. Matthew Ween.
Thank you, Mr. Kryman. Get closer to the mic. And I want to thank the council for the opportunity to be in front of you this evening. I'm really thankful to be superintendent here in Bonita Unified, and I'm very grateful and feel fortunate that the district and the city has such a great partnership that Doug's a big fan as well. From the sports park that we have to the pool at Los Flores Park, student resource officer, crossing guards, we have worked together to do many great things for our community. And as such, I'm simply here tonight to affirm that work is going to continue. And I look forward to working together with all of you to create new endeavors between our district and our city. While here, I also want to take a few moments and remind the citizens of Laverne about the status of the Bonita Unified School District. First and foremost, Bonita Unified School District's in the top 10% of all unified school districts in the state of California relative to academic achievement. Second, we were ranked San Gabriel Valley's best school district by the Reader's Choice Awards. We are a 3-time winner, top workplace by the Inland News Group. Our reading program for the elementary schools was ranked #1 in the state of California by the California Reading Coalition. And we are home to many California distinguished schools and even 1 national Blue Ribbon schools. The list goes on. And of course, these accomplishments are a result of the great work of the teaching staff, classified staff, and management staff that we have in the district. And I want to publicly acknowledge them for the work that they do to make our district so great. We also reached these heights by having a school board that has a history of fiscal responsibility and a history of putting students first to create an environment where they can be successful and live their purpose. I do thank the members who have come to support tonight. Also want to acknowledge member Derek Batmanu, who was unable to attend tonight. All 5 of the school board members have been greatly supportive of me as I started in August, and it's been really fun to work with them. I think we have a great team moving forward. Before I go, I just want to mention that although we're very proud of the accolades that I mentioned just a minute ago, the key for us as we move forward is to ensure that the accolades that were mentioned are applicable to every student that we have. In particular, in Bonita, we're focusing on students who come from backgrounds of poverty. In our district, about 37% of our students come from backgrounds of poverty. As we work to make sure that all students are put in position to excel, I'm excited to partner with the City of Laverne to ensure that we as a district understand and know and are aware of and can help families take advantage of the community resources offered by the city to families in need. I think we're in a unique position from a city and the district to make both the city and the district the best possible place to work, best possible place to go to school, the best possible place to raise a family. I look forward to working with all of you to make that happen. Again, thank you for this opportunity. If you have any questions about Bonita Unified, I'd be happy to answer them now. Thank you.
Matt, I just want to say that it takes a district, it takes the cities, San Dimas, Laverne, to work cooperatively together. And it's always been that way. And it's an open door policy with our school boards, with our council, with our staff. And I just want to say that we're very excited for you to be in this position.
Thank you.
You've come from other superintendents with a great vast knowledge, and you've learned from them and also the positions you've been in. But it takes a village. It takes the cities, it takes the residents, it takes the students to make this successful. And we have our values and our properties are because of the fact that we have such a fantastic school district, but also we have the great collaboration to take care of those students. So I want to thank you, and especially during the pandemic, it was not an easy time for any of us. You guys did exceptional.
Thank you.
And I want to thank the school board for that, but also the leadership, and you were part of that leadership, and it just continues on. So we're very excited to have you on board.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to get a picture with council and all of the school board if we could. Should we do that real quick? Okay, we were live on that, on the flag salute, were we not? I love it. Thank you. We had a little snafu last month with, we lost for the flag salute, we lost our, sound. Yes, this works now. We have a new sound system. Patty Madera, who's going to accept this award for the Red Cross American, during American Red Cross Month in March. She was going to accept it, but she had an emergency, so she will not be able to be here tonight. City of Laverne proclamation, whereas during American Red Cross Month in March, we celebrate the humanitarian spirit of Laverne and reaffirm our commitment to help ensure no one faces a crisis alone. And whereas caring for one another is at the heart of our community and exemplified by the people of Laverne, whose simple acts of kindness through the Red Cross provide help and hope in people's most difficult moments. Continuing the life-saving legacy of Clara Barton, who founded the organization more than 140 years ago to prevent and alleviate human suffering. And whereas every day, these ordinary individuals lend a helping hand to make an extraordinary difference for neighbors in need, whether it's providing emergency shelter, food, and comfort for families displaced by home fires and other disasters, donating life-saving blood for cancer patients, accident victims, and people with sickle cell disease and other life-threatening conditions, supporting military members and veterans, along with their families and caregivers through the unique challenges of service, emergencies, or delivering international humanitarian aid and reconnecting loved ones separated by crises around the world. And whereas their support, volunteerism, and generous donations are critical to our community's resilience, we hereby recognize this month of March in honor of all of those who fulfill Clara Barton's noble words. You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it, and ask everyone to join in this commitment. Now be it proclaimed by the City of Laverne that the month of March 2023 be recognized as Red Cross Month, and we encourage all citizens to reach out and support its humanitarian mission. Dated this 20th day of March 2023. We got a couple big awards here to give out tonight. Our next award is going to be the Jack Huntington Award. It was named after S. Jack Huntington, who moved to Laverne in 1970. Despite heavy professional obligations and time commitments to the U.S. Naval Reserve, Jack became actively involved in the community as a volunteer. He was active in various local organizations, including the Laverne JCs, Little League, and the Youth Basketball Program. Jack also served as the City of Laverne Commissioner for more than 15 years, completing 2 terms on the Parks and Recreation Commission, as well as 2 terms on the Planning Commission. Jack Huntington was a citizen volunteer who exemplified the pride of Laverne through selfless service to the community. This year, the Jack Huntington Pride of Laverne Award is being presented to Linda Logan. Linda, come on up. I've only known Linda for a while, just a few years. Ms. Logan is a longtime resident and is the vice president of the McIntyre Company in Covina, a commercial real estate development and management firm. She was involved in Laverne Little League as a team mom and founding member of the Laverne Little League Auxiliary, and helped to raise funds for the junior division Little League families to travel to Taylor, Michigan for the World Series. Linda started K9 Partners of Covina, is a member of the Covina Rotary Club, was Rotary District 5300 Youth Exchange Officer for 4 years, founder and chairman of the Field of Valor, which is incredible. And most recently in 2019, Linda started Laverne K9 and Police Foundation, another incredible feat. The foundation has raised $160,000 to date. They funded the purchase of K9 Dino, equipped an existing police car with a special, and Tupelo with the special, sorry, she's hungry. K9 Dino equipped an existing police car with special items needed to transport and help the K9s work effectively, purchased special equipment, leashes, food, and training, and paid for medical expenses. Most recently, the foundation funded the purchase of K9 Tupelo, a bloodhound, her special leashes, harnesses, a GPS collar, and other special equipment for a handler, Officer Weinrob. Where is he? There's Alan Weinrob, Officer Weinrob in the back. Alan went to school with my son, so we know Alan a little bit. Linda credits the community as having been wonderful partners. Katie's Pet Depot, a foundation partner, has donated toys, food, and other items for K9 Tupelo. The foundation continues to support K9 Tupelo with food and necessary items not donated. We present you with the Pride of Laverne Award.
Thank you. There we go. Thank you so very much for this. And I do have in the audience some of our canine partners. Denise is here, Ron is here, and soon to be Lori Felt. But I do appreciate this, and you know, we couldn't do it without the support of our community. We have a car show coming up. We have, and that's going to be the Saturday before Easter Sunday. We have an event coming up on May 8th, which is going to be the golf tournament that the Laverne POA is putting on and is going to benefit us. We also have coming up on May 21st, the Dog Fest, and of course, the Christmas tree extravaganza that will come up on December 2nd. So please support us. I know that you guys have been great partners. We couldn't do it without our community and our partnership with the police department. So thank you again for this. And if you have an RMD that you need to do, you can go to our website and certainly talk to your tax people because it's a good deduction for you if you have to take your mandatory distributions. Thank you.
Why don't you get a picture with your family? Family, come on up. Come on. Come on. Yes.
Where's the dog?
Bring the dog back. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize Mr. Ingalls, previous police chief of Laverne, also a previous council member of Laverne. And what else did you do? And then part of the Humane Society, head cook and bottle washer, I guess is what we call you. Thank you. Our next award here. Thank you again, Linda, and all the group. Unbelievable amount of money that you raised, and I saw you at every single engagement. So all those things that you said, we can post those on the city website. I know we will be more than happy to do that. We know that the car show for sure, but I think it's important because I think most of us have always donated, and I think it's such a wonderful cause. So thank you again. Congratulations. The Jim Scranton Award was named after longtime resident Jim Scranton, who was a member of the Youth Sports Committee since its inception in 1986. I guess I need my glasses. Oh, that's what it said. Sorry. In 1986, he formed the Laverne Lasers Soccer Club organization, which provides youngsters an opportunity to play soccer at a highly competitive level. Jim also spent 5 years at the City Sports Park Committee, which resulted in the development of 35 acres of sports fields for the community. He also participated in the city's women's soccer program as a coach. Jim is survived by his wife, Susan, and their children. The Youth Sports Committee recommended the Pride of Laverne Youth Sports Volunteer Award be named in honor of Jim Scranton. This year, the Jim Scranton Pride of Laverne Award is being presented to Eric Shadrick. Mr. Shadrick, please join me up at the podium. We also have Jim Scranton's son, Mike Scranton, over here, Officer Scranton. Eric's passion for volunteering started at his daughter's Laverne Heights Elementary School, where he helped at school events such as sports night, carnivals, garden club, fundraisers, and his wife Linda's Girl Scout troops. He volunteered at Ramona Middle School, Benito High School in several capacities, and could regularly be seen flipping burgers at Friday Night Lights. I remember that. He passed his lifelong love of soccer along to both daughters, and his youth soccer career began an assistant ASO coach, and that too, for one of their teams in 2006. He soon after became a head coach with 2 teams. He has held multiple positions within ASO, such as assistant regional commissioner, divisional coordinator, referee, coach, trainer, spring select coach, all-star coach, as well as director of the Great Western Shootout. Eric began coaching at the club level 8 years later with Laverne Lasers Soccer Club, where he joined the board, created 2 teams for the club, and was voted president. A year later, and there he served with an all-volunteer board and helped strengthen the club from 3 teams to 11 teams, and was the club liaison to the city's youth sports committee for all 7 years. Since moving on from the Lasers, he looks forward to continuing to serve on the youth sports committee as a member at large, and is most recently a proud new founding member of Cal Poly Pomona's Parent Ambassador Program, which helps support Cal Poly students and families as they transition to college life. And your name will be placed on the perpetual plaque, which will be displayed at City Hall. And here is the pride of Laverne. Congratulations.
Well, I certainly have big shoes to follow, so thank you for that. We talk about a village, right? It takes a village, and certainly I'm no different, and I need to thank and appreciate my family very much for all the time that I spent away from them doing all of these activities, which were both fun and time consuming. I want to thank the board in the city of Laverne. We live in a very special place where we have tons of support from everybody at all levels, and that's what helps me thrive, or lots of people like me thrive. And so there are many of us out there, and I appreciate this very much. Thank you.
I just want to say also, family, come on up, family. I just want to say to Mike Scranton and his family, I was on the board at the time when Mr. Scranton left us way too soon, and his diligence and forcefulness and kindness was able to make these sports programs for our city and our sportsplex so successful. So thank you again, Mike, and to your family. Let your mom know, please. She'll kill me. Thank you. Congratulations. With that, we're going to take a 2-minute recess to let everybody that needs to go. I know this is exciting, but school board, all the other members, thank you all for coming, though, that did come for the awards, and congratulations to the recipients again. And thank you, Matt. We're going to start the meeting back up now at 7 o'clock. So we will move to announcements of upcoming community events. At this time, if anybody has anything to bring up, not on public comment, this is announcements for upcoming future events and things that are coming on the community. Anybody wish to come up and speak?
I know.
Well, it's coming this weekend, though. This coming weekend. Anytime we get a chance to get you at the mic,
Oh, you may live to regret that. Think about
I'm
that.
sorry, your time's up.
All right. So on behalf of the Laverne Historical Society, one more time, for the 3rd time, this coming Saturday, we have a triple header. We have the Bonita High School car show. And so here's your chance to come meet the students who have been working in the auto shop class and appreciate all their efforts as they're gaining these skills. And we'll be there thanking them for all their work on the 1938 International Truck. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon with the car show behind us, we will walk across the street to the Methodist Church and tour the church. And then at 3:15, we'll turn around again, walk back across the street to the Student Union at the high school and watch a screening of the 1967 film, The Graduate. So we've got a long day of activities with the Historical Society. So that's on the 25th. And then keep on your calendar, the 8th of April. I see we're conflicting with another event, but that's what always happens. On the 8th, we are going to the Cooper Regional History Museum in Upland. So all these little hidden gems in our backyard, we'll visit them. And our big trip is coming up the 6th of May. We'll be traveling to the Nethercutt Museum in Sylmar. So that should be a really fun event. It's a day-long event. We'll be riding in style in a bus provided by Supervisor Catherine Barger. So more about that later and more flyers, but keep this Saturday open. There's a lot going on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry.
What time? Be there at 9 o'clock and plan to stay till about 4:30, 5 o'clock. The Bonita High School parking lot. And then I'll direct traffic from there and I'll send you across the street, back across the street. That's it. Perfect.
And donations are always in order. And membership, don't forget your membership. Lifetime membership is how much, Sherry? 200? Is that for one person or two? What's the second person lifetime membership? $200? That would be 400. Just checking. There's no, you get where I'm coming from. Is there a twofer deal here or what? I think that, 300 sounded really good for lifetime for two people, Okay, anyway, we'll discuss that later. Announcements. Anyone else in the audience for announcements? We'll move to the dais. Mayor
Yes,
Pro Tem Crosby.
announcement from Foothill Transit. I'm the representative of Laverne on their governing board. They are proposing some changes in their lines. Really no big changes from our Laverne line, but some changes in when it goes down to Pomona. The changes though are also making it so it gets faster to Mount Sac and to Cal Poly as well. So should be coming out in the mail changes. They will also have meetings in March and April for anyone to speak about any of the changes too. And so we'll get something, maybe a link for this to put up for our residents as well.
Council? Yeah. Of course.
So, well, I didn't know if it was open. So there's a there is a blood drive that's being sponsored by Laverne Fire Department and Laverne PD for this Thursday, and it's going to be taking place at Fire Station 1. And from what I understand, it's a little battle of the departments. So pick whoever you're going to donate on behalf of. But it's for a good cause. And if you've got the time, I believe it's from 1 to 7. Is that right? On Thursday? Yes. Okay, perfect. I was like, is that a thumb? So 1 to 7 at Fire Station 1 this Thursday, if you would like to donate blood.
No.
Association in honor.
Thank you, Councilmember Lau. Just a real quick update. I know that most people see that the Gary Avenue is still closed. It was supposed to open on the 17th, but they had a few issues, so it'll probably be another week. Gary Avenue will be open from Arrow to Bonita, so that'll be happening very soon. We'll be updating you guys from Metro Gold Line. There's a big meeting this week at the Metro board meeting downtown LA in person, but you can also call in. We'll be posting that stuff online. This is for the continuation and funding to try to seek funding for the extension from Pomona to Claremont to Montclair, which is a $780 million extension. And unfortunately, in the last round, that it's called the CalSTRA round, where they had funding for this particular thing, we got left out. Inglewood took some of the money and some of the other ones. So they're trying to scramble because this extension to complete to Montclair is extremely important for the A line or B line or L line or whatever they're going to call it when it's done, but they have changed the name. So this is a big meeting. It would be up for public comment and for people to push for that, to tell the board, because we're trying to get them to convince them to get some funding, whether it be state or federal, to be able to fund this portion. So it's a huge meeting. So been working on that really hard. But yeah, so this week, hopefully by the end of this week, depending on the rain schedule, we should be opening up Gary. And I don't think it'll be closed again. So that'll be the final one. So we're moving forward with that. With that, we're going to close announcements, and then we are going to consent calendar. As a reminder, the consent calendar is a considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion unless pulled for separate discussion. Mr. Domer, was there anything pulled from the consent calendar?
Nothing was pulled, sir.
Nothing was pulled. With that, may I have a motion? Second? All vote, please.
And that did carry 5-0.
We move on to other matters, being the 2022. Mr. Domer, do you want to introduce Christy Lopez? I think I already did, but you're going to go ahead and do it again.
I will do it again.
22-23 mid-year budget update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the mid-year budget update for fiscal year 2022-23. And I do want to bring forward Christy Lopez, who is our Director of Finance. Christy, all yours.
Welcome, Director Lopez. Always a
Thank you.
pleasure to have you in our house. Tell us good things, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Tonight, I will be presenting the fiscal year 22-23 mid-year budget update. I will discuss changes in revenues, expenditures, and transfers that have been identified as necessary to maintain services throughout the end of this fiscal year. The presentation here is really just the tables that were taken from the report, and I'm just going to use them to explain. There are a number of changes listed in detail in the report, but I will be focusing on the general fund and only highlighting the larger changes outside of the general fund, because there's a lot of information in here. So before I discuss the details of the mid-year, I'd like to give you an overview of the revised budget impact on the general fund balance. So this table lists the budget adjustments that have been approved at council since the adoption of the budget, as well as the 21-22 encumbrances that were rolled over from the prior year. So this includes, as you can see, salary adjustments that were done in July, as well as funding of a police vehicle. So it's anything that's happened after the initial budget was adopted. With these adjustments and the mid-year recommended changes, it is anticipated that the expenditures will exceed the revenues by $639,000 of general fund reserves will be needed to cover the anticipated expenses. So before I move on, do you have any questions about this section? Nope.
Any questions? Nope. I think we're
Okay.
good.
Perfect. Go ahead, Jer. Thank you. Yes. So the 22-23 general fund estimated revenues. The city's two largest tax sources are actually in line with the original projections. And those are the property tax and sales tax. So there's no adjustments to those. The utility users tax is showing a 10% increase due to the increases in electricity and gas that I know all of us are also impacted by. So as you pay more, the actual taxes that come back to the city are higher for the use tax. The transfers actually account for the largest mid-year adjustment. The 1.8 million is attributed to the following. Measure LV, which is a transfer to cover the salary and benefit adjustments previously approved. It was identified that Measure LV was going to cover those costs, but we didn't identify that there was going to be a transfer that was needed. So this is just a cleanup item. we do have to have authority from council to transfer between funds. Another cleanup item is asset forfeiture transfer. We were notified in December while we're currently going through a Department of Justice audit for our asset forfeiture funds, that the way that we were currently paying confidential informants was actually not in line with how they wanted us to pay them. And so we need to expense the funds out of the general fund. And then the asset forfeiture fund can then reimburse the general fund for those expenses. How we were doing it previously is we were paying those directly out of the asset forfeiture funds. And that little minor adjustment is actually not in line with their guidelines. So once we were alerted to the need to make that change, we identified a procedure that we should follow. And so what happens is when we pay those confidential informant payments, before those payments are released, we look at the fund balance for asset forfeiture, make sure that there's sufficient funds to cover it. And let me mention, those asset forfeiture payments are all part of the fiduciary services that we provide to LA Impact. Another cleanup item is traffic safety. The traffic safety fund was previously all handled in Fund 208, which is a completely separate fund. In fiscal year 22-23, that was consolidated with the general fund. And it was not completely discussed with the department. And when talking with the police department, they wanted that to be separated out. So this is a net zero impact. The expenses and the revenues were being shown in the general fund, and we just moved them back into Fund 208, which is Traffic Safety Fund. The next one is utility overhead costs. So there are increases of $593,000 for water fund and $90,000 for the sewer fund. And those are transfers that are coming into the general fund to support overhead costs. So all of the costs that are provided by the city, including police and fire, accounting, IT. An analysis was done in 2018, I believe, by a separate consulting agency, and they identified a specific way for us to determine how much we need to charge the water and sewer funds. And while reviewing the budget documents for mid-year, I noticed that the schedule was not updated. So the transfer amount was actually less in 22-23 than it was in 21-22. And as we all know, fund expenses go up, they don't go down. And so when I updated those amounts, the change was $593,000 for water and $90,000 for sewer. You will also see in expenses a corresponding expense because this is a transfer. So you're going to see the revenue come in to the general fund, and you'll see a transfer go out of water and sewer. These plus other smaller adjustments lead to an increase of the general fund revenues, including transfers of $2.2 million. The non-general fund revenues, I'm only going to highlight one area. There are some minor items, but the largest one is an increase to the investment returns of $470,000. This is across all funds except for the general fund. When I was looking at the budget for the investments in all the funds, there were no revenues identified for interest returns in non-general fund, only in general fund. So in conjunction with us moving $20 million from our LAIF funds, which earns 2% interest, to government securities that earn between 4 and 5%, we're going to increase. We're estimating about $470,000 through the end of this year.
Can I stop you there for a second?
Of course.
I honestly am so appreciative of this because this is one of the things I've been asking for years. It was always looking at our investment pool. And I know LAIF and you have to have a certain amount, but you have a protection level. If the protection level is high as far as our investments, we're okay to do that. And I really appreciate that because we were losing out, even though recently there wasn't a lot to be gotten, but now there is.
Right.
But I am so happy that we're doing this now because that's added money to the general fund. That's just interest accruing. And especially with all that money sitting in there doing absolutely nothing for years. I would look at that balance for the last almost 8 years I've been on council, and it was negative. The investment was $100 and your return was, $99. It's like, come on, we've got to do better than this. So I really appreciate that. That is huge. And that really helps us because that amount of money pushes back to the general fund is huge for us to afford other things that go and increase. So
Of course.
I mean, interrupt, but I love
No,
it.
I was actually going to ask you before I move on to expenditures. Do you have any questions? So,
I think also the another one that I'm glad that they've nailed down this asset forfeiture. It was always something of a mystery to me because I look at the audited demands and I look at LA Impact now and LA Clear. I look at those and it's just a lot of money. And as we've talked before on the dais about the fact that we don't want the city on the hook for anything. And so my understanding is that asset forfeiture money now, before we do a payment, we have to make sure there's money in the asset forfeiture. We will transfer that into the general fund to pay for that asset forfeiture expenses. Is that correct?
correct. And even before, we never paid for LA Impact, or now we do fiduciary services for LA HIDA, LA Clear. The city was never contributing any of city funds towards asset forfeiture. LA Impact is a very large task force. It covers a very large area and they're out there, they're doing big things to, stop bad guys. So they do a lot of activity, but it's all their money. None of it comes from the city at all.
I'm glad you clarified that, but
Yeah.
it's just a lot of money. It's
It
a
is.
tremendous amount of money. And the asset forfeiture was always, I was kind of told, don't say anything about it. It's like, no, it's right here in public knowledge. It's like, it's asset forfeiture. And to make sure that we have the money to cover that through the asset forfeiture account into our general fund. So
Yes, definitely.
But us doing the money for impact, we get a administrative fee as well,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And so cost is, we're not just using our people and using our time and you guys are doing exceptional work. We're getting paid back to do that as well.
Correct, of course. Yes, there
But
is a
we're always-
benefit to the city.
we're always reviewing that though, to see if there maybe we need to receive more for the amount of time that we're putting out to make sure we're compensated correctly.
Yes, that is definitely something that we will be going over at some point once we get a breathing time. We will be going over and looking at all of that in with Ken, because this is new, right? So we're definitely new to Ken. So we're going to go over all of that.
Take up more of our staff time.
Correct. Definitely.
Oh, your mic was off, Steve.
That, sorry.
And your.
Oh my God, not the laptop.
It's waterproof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited about the money.
It's about the money.
Show me the money.
No, we did add a position when we added LA HIDA, LA Clear just recently in June. We did add another full-time position to our staff. So
When was the last time it was looked at as far as how much money that we were getting from federal government? And task force to accomplish for our service?
as far as a review, it's been a while. So it's definitely something
But
that we need to
we
look
didn't
at.
take on HIDA until just recently,
Yes, yes.
LA
but
Clear.
we
LA
haven't
Clear.
looked at it in a while.
about 4 years, I think, maybe over 4 years,
So we're
maybe
due.
longer.
So we're due.
Oh,
Yes.
Good.
It's definitely on the list of things to do, short list for sure.
Any other questions? Thank you, Director Lopez. Continue.
So just one more section. Moving on to general fund expenditures. So general fund expenditures are anticipated to increase by $2.2 million. Sorry, yes, next slide. Oh, yeah, this one, yes. So the largest increase of $1.6 million is attributed to personnel changes with $1.4 million in fire department. The initial fire department budget was not sufficient to cover expenditures. Historical overtime costs have ranged from $600,000 to $700,000 each year, which covers sick, vacation, and regular overtime attributed to a 24-hour operation. As we know, if I call in sick, nobody's going to be called in to cover me. But if a firefighter calls in sick, someone has to come in and cover them. So it's a very different situation. Same thing goes for police. So this $700,000 figure was prior to the ambulance operator program, which has an additional $300,000 overtime cost. So really the cost for overtime this year should have been $1 million for the fire department. It was budgeted at $350,000. So there was an initial gap just off the start. In addition, there are also overages related to training. As we hire new people, you do have to train. As they go off to training, their shifts have to be covered as well as coverage for injuries on duty. So we did have, I believe, 3 people out, and that does require us to cover them 100% of their shifts. Police department also has an anticipated overage of $250,000, which is also to injuries on duty as well. Non-general fund expenditures / transfers of 2.7 are largely attributed to the cleanup items for Measure LV, asset forfeiture, utility overhead costs, and traffic safety, which were discussed in the revenue section. The remaining expenses are for ladder repairs, SCBA equipment, radios for fire, $100,000 for equipment purchases to upgrade fuel dispensing, as well as cost increases for fuel, and a cleanup item to identify previously unallocated measured LV funds that have been identified as needed for costs for the new K-9 Tupelo. And with that, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Council, questions for Director Lopez?
Thank you.
We appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for always answering my questions. I really appreciated it. And to Mr. Domer, answering my questions this past week. And I didn't get to ask, and you might not have the answer right now, if later is fine as well. But of our grand total, the $2.2 million, how much does that cut into our reserves?
So that's going to be 600, and the total with all the budget adjustments that have been done since the beginning of the year is 630,000, I believe.
39?
Yeah.
And so what is our reserves, our percentage of our reserves? How much does that cut into that?
So
If you don't have it, I don't want to put you on the spot either. I just want to make sure. Okay.
You always have.
we are still meeting our percentage of reserves. We have over 20% reserves. It is obviously going to eat into it. It's taking over $600,000. We anticipate that the estimated beginning fund balance is $12.6 million for reserves, and it will end at about $12 million.
Thank you.
And just to reiterate on that, those are all decisions that have been made from July 1 to this point. So not incorporating the movement that's going on today, but
Correct.
so.
Yes, all the mid-year adjustments, we were actually able to get that down to a positive of $6,000 actually, with all of the mid-year adjustments for general fund. But it's all of the decisions that were made prior to that have impacted the reserves.
Councilmember Lau.
I just wanted to say thank you for answering questions and for providing clarity in the report for where everything is going. I definitely feel that this is going to be very helpful on a go forward basis. I know you had a lot of unraveling to do, so very appreciative of your time and your expertise in doing that. And thank you to your staff for performing that as well. And I would just urge that, as you have been doing, continuing to work with the department heads to make them aware what is and isn't available and how we can work together to continue to do well. I mean, it's not that I'm not, how do I word this? That's what the reserves are for. I wish we didn't have to, but I'm glad that we have been budgeting above what we should be keeping in the reserve so that we can accommodate all the things that need to be accommodated. So thank you.
Of course.
Councilmember Johnson.
Like I said, I appreciate everything that you're doing. I know when Cash and I we're running for council. There was a lot of talk about, we need an audit, we need all of this looked at, and I'm glad that we're doing it now. That you've been doing it ever since you came back. We appreciate that so much. And we just want to hear it straight,
Of
where we
course.
are, what we need to do. And Ken, with your help, I think we're going to stay on track now. Thank you.
Councilmember Cash.
I'm just glad we hired you.
Thank you.
Transparent. Hey. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know this accounting stuff. My wife's in accounting, so I just steer clear of some stuff.
Understandable.
Oh, that's, I'm the social butterfly in the family, but thank you. And I appreciate you, and I'm glad that we hired you.
Thank you.
So stay strong.
Yeah.
and, thank you.
Concerning that, I've probably been around for 8 years now, and you've been here and you left for a little while, that you have no idea how much I appreciate this. And I appreciate the new management we have, because I'll be honest, and this is for public knowledge, this was an abyss that you were left with. And Ken came on, and it took a good months to remedy this and figure out where everything was. No wrongdoing, just it wasn't in the right place.
Correct.
But when you go from the numbers you were telling us originally to down to a plus $6,000, it takes a lot of staff time. It takes a lot of perseverance. And I know you're here on Fridays because I come in to do the audit and to check the audit demands. I just want to let everybody know in the audience here and people out there that our last finance director left us in a mess. And our city manager knew that. And there was the person left, and Christy came on board and was left with a mess. And I really appreciate what you've done. We're moving forward. We're looking at things positively, as Councilmember Johnson stated, and Mayor Pro Tem Crosby and Councilmember Lau and Councilmember Cash. Transparent, upfront, no surprises. Let our residents know what's going on at any time. Our city management's the same way, and that's why we hired Mr. Domer. And this is working out. I know you need more staff though, so we got to work on that. I know that you're working way too much, and but at least we're this far ahead now, and I absolutely appreciate that, and kudos to you and your staff.
Thank you.
And with that,
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I can, I want to thank Christy, because I know not just Fridays, she's in here more than what she should be.
Saturdays and Sundays sometimes too.
And then I didn't yell at her, but I told her this morning when I sent her an email at 10:45, do not respond at 10:46 at night on a Sunday. So
And I told you, no, I'm
yeah.
still going to respond.
Yeah. She's being disrespectful, but no.
In a positive way.
Yeah. Chrissy and her staff really have labored on this. As you mentioned, the budget that we were in, typically the mid-year budget should be presented to the council before this time. But there was a lot of cleanup to do. And as you know, because I was keeping you informed, the budget numbers did kind of go like this.
Oh, they didn't go like that.
I
They were
know,
like
well.
this, like this, and then like this.
And it
Come
was
on,
really
be
because of
honest.
Christy and her staff kind of digging into and finding things and really understanding how things were set up in the last time. But we are moving forward, and that is the theme that we're taking on and going into this next budget year, because they are moving quickly into developing the next year's budget. We want to bring to the council and to the community a much more transparent method of that, making sure people understand what are some of the programs of the city. There's been concerns about the CJPIA excess pool and some of the other issues. Making sure that we answer those questions in an informative, timely fashion so that people understand how we're using their tax money here. So we do look forward to making sure the next budget is sound, is balanced, but is also informative to the public so they know how we're spending their money, but also well put together so that you guys can make the decisions you have to make. So I just want to say that. And again, thank you to Christy and her staff for doing just an absolutely awesome job. I've worked with a lot of finance directors in my career, and she's on the tops right now.
Well, I want to mention too that one of my platforms when I ran for mayor in 2020, was it 2020? Can't remember anymore. Was the fact of a forensic audit. And since then, and you've come on, we're doing our audits, as Councilmember Johnson stated. we're doing the audits internally. And we're having people come on board. You're hiring people to make sure that everything is in the proper category that it should be for financing and also for accounting methods. So I want to thank you for that because we're on the right track. On the right track. I will close the council comments. Does anybody in the public wish to comment on this item? Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Anybody online? You did such a great job that everyone understands it. Nope. With that, we're going to close public comment. We move to the next item. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We have to accept it, don't we? With that, I would accept a motion. Mr. Kashyapagita, you want to turn on?
Still voting?
I'd like a motion, please.
I so move.
Second,
Second.
vote, please. Oh, we showed it. Very good. Item number 7, Mr. Domer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a resolution adjusting the fire marshal median salary. For this item, I'd like to bring up Fire Chief Chris Nigg, who is in his best looking dress. Class A's, I think that
That's
is
what happens. That's what happens when you come to ask for money. You got to dress right.
If I was on my game, I'd have a bow tie on.
Good evening, Fire Marshal Nig. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, right. That was attention.
That was. Good evening, Chief Nig. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. As you may recall, back in December of 2021, I brought before you a new position classification that the city had never had before. And it was its first full-time fire marshal in order to address a host of deficiencies that I identified in the Fire Prevention Bureau, now known as our Community Risk Reduction Bureau, which is a more holistic approach to risk reduction and vulnerability identification, et cetera. At the time when I first got here, having been a fire marshal for a few years in my previous agency, had a very profound respect for the position and all of the things that go along with the duties related to the fire marshal. And I realized that without a full-time fire marshal, there was a lot of delayed development implications, numerous missed inspections that we had no way really of keeping track of. A lot of lack of proactive enforcement programs, lack of comprehensive prevention related records management, failure of operational area engagement, and so on. So at the time we were able to, in order to implement that position without increasing any or increasing our budget related to the Community Risk Reduction Division, we essentially took the deputy fire marshal position compensation at the time and added it to the overtime that the part-time battalion chief, the full-time duty battalion chief was spending in overtime to keep up with those duties. In order to get to that, ultimately the top step compensation that was provided to the full-time fire marshal was just over $100,000 annually. At the time, it was and I believe I had mentioned to council, a fairly competitive salary, although extremely on the low end. At the time, the discussion was, as everybody knows, made a lot of moves in the fire department in a very short period of time. A lot of it revenue-based, projection-based, and of course, there was discussion about rectifying the fire marshal's salary to remain competitive and keep talented personnel here once we attract them. We then hired Mr. Robert Montagami, who is our full-time fire marshal. He was here for 11 months and unfortunately decided to take a job with the Laguna Beach Fire Department and it started there effective today, actually. In order to keep up with everything that's going on in the city, because that office would come to a grinding halt, it would impact community development, it would impact a lot of things in the city. He has offered to stay with us part-time, at least on Fridays, until we can transition a new fire marshal. So we're very thankful to him. But I do want to reiterate that in the time that he was here, he did a lot for our city. He completely restored our record management system, created proactive wildland inspections, did a very good job at accounting for and putting together holistic accountability list related to all the businesses we were missing and all the operational permits that we were missing and all the operations that were going on out illegally and everything else in the city. So he did a lot for us. However, Laguna Beach just simply offers way too much of a pay that we couldn't even begin to get close to. Nonetheless, we identified that we did need to get to a competitive salary that would then attract another fire marshal candidate who was equivalent to what Robert brought to our city. In doing so, we looked at several of the area cities that Laverne typically uses for compensation median averages. And unfortunately, some of those cities, they have fire districts, Rancho Cucamonga, Chino Valley being one of them, which, they pay their fire marshals upwards of almost $200,000 a year. And frankly, it's not even close to what we're doing here in the city, financially or operationally. So we did look to the city of Brea, who was a comparable city, identified as such in a 2018 comp and class study. And they also are equivalent to us in size and in risk structure, et cetera. So ultimately what we landed on was a commensurate salary that we have before you of just over $129,000 annually. And as such, we are currently flying the new fire marshal position with that anecdotal salary on there until council ratifies such tonight. And I can tell you that I have a very vast network out there, and I had a lot of people want to come work for Laverne Fire and work for me in this position. However, the pay was not anything they were willing to look at. And since we have put this new salary schedule out there, we have a lot of very, very, very qualified people who are interested in coming to work for Laverne. So with that, I'm bringing before you tonight an adjustment to make sure that we are going to continue to be competitive and attract quality personnel in the fire marshal's office moving forward.
Thank you, Chief Nig. I'm going to start off here. We discussed this at length, and the frustration factor on my part is that we received someone that we thought was going to be a long term, and unfortunately left us. The discussion was that you weren't aware of that he was looking at other agencies. Is that correct?
Correct. When they go through the interview process, I end up interviewing typically the top three, he being one of them, obviously. And one of my questions was, it's taken a lot for me to get this department where it's at. We are continuing to move this department in a very, very positive direction, and essentially looking for somebody to come on board my command staff team and continue to push that energetic, optimistic push forward and, in line with industry standards. So at the time, he looked me in the eye multiple times and said, I'm here for the next 10 plus years and I'm going to retire, and, let's do this. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So nonetheless, I don't want to discount the work that he did do for us. He's provided a great foundation for us to kick off from. But like I said, it was a hard pill to swallow when he did tell me that he was moving on. So
Well, I think also there was some information going by some residents' concerns, the fact that the numbers are so low on as far as the inspections and stuff. But again, we must remind everyone that we had nothing.
Sure.
We had absolutely nothing. And the building blocks are in place. I just look forward to I want to make sure we're good with this salary that you have here, as far as we'll be able to, receive and retain our individuals, to make sure that we can't pay top dollar. We're a small community, but yet people that really want to work for you, which is a very big catch for most people. You're a good individual. You've brought transparency to the fire department. You've brought, with our labor unit, you've brought a calming effect. A multi-year contract, which we've never had. We've got the LA County automatic aid agreement, which we haven't, ever had. So I think for us, we just want to make sure that you have the right tools to do this. If this is going to be for you to get what you need, along with the community risk assessment individual. And like I was talking, I don't want to feed to death all of our businesses, but we need this in place to order to have all of our city safe, our buildings, our community areas, all of the commercial buildings, our Hillcrest, things like that. We do need to make those inspections. I think it's very important for our community, but also at the same token, that affords us the fire department and your positions that you have. So with that, council. Oh, we'll move to public comment. Any public comment on this issue, on this item? We'll close public comment and move to the dais. Council comments. Councilmember Johnson.
This sounds great to me, as long as Chief Nig, you're supporting this. Christie, you're supporting this with our budget. And Ken,
The bosses.
I want to make sure that, it wouldn't be on the agenda, I'm sure, if
Yeah.
it wasn't, but
No, and Chief Nig and I have had lengthy conversations on this. As you've heard, we're building a brand new program basically and doing something that is a requirement of the fire department. On the consent calendar was the report for SB 1205. And it showed that in the past, we hadn't complied with that. So what Chief Nig is building is a professional portion of his department and bringing in good people. So this is needed. In 2, 3, 4 years or something like that, we can always reevaluate if there's an opening, but yes, it is needed.
If I can speak a little bit more to the SB 1205, just because it does kind of tie in, and unfortunately I had to go after the finance director's budget report, which is a really tough spot to have to ask for this, but nonetheless, Christy and I did have a lot of conversation, and if you'll notice, as far as sustainability goes, we have continued to identify an extraordinary amount of inspections that weren't being done in the past, as well as permitting that wasn't being done. There's cost recovery mechanisms for all of those in place. And to that end, yes, a lot of these are based off of projections, which I promised Christy I would say. And but nonetheless, we know that we confidently can say that there's at least 800 to 1,000 inspections out there that at minimum will be done. And it's always been in my education and experience, if you're running a prevention bureau or now community risk reduction division correctly, it should fully sustain itself. And I think that we are there. We will see that, I believe, in roughly about 2 to 3 years time since I started here and started making these changes. These administrative changes you don't see overnight. They take time to get there because you have to find the problems. We had to completely retrain all of our crews. When you go do inspections, this is what you look for. You have to talk to the business owner or the reporting party and find out who owns the business, what kind of occupancy it is, and then that's how we classify and break them out. We don't even know what we don't know at this point. So that's a very, very conservative number that I feel very comfortable using to sustain this moving forward. I think that was it. Sorry.
No, that's good. Council? Mayor Pro Tem Crosby.
When I first joined the council, we did not have a fire chief. We closed down Station 3. Since then, we've hired a fire chief. We now have ambulance services, and we did a study to go to LA County or not. The cost of that study to go to LA County was going to be extreme cost, but we said we're going to put that money back into our own fire department, and we made that commitment. Tonight, you see a commitment that we have made, adding to the mid-budget as $1.4 million for overtime personnel. And we needed it. And this is still a lot cheaper than going to county. And our service is a lot better. And tonight you're coming and asking us for more for our new marshal. Now, I believe in that. And the cost of that, we need to find great people that are going to stay. And part of our retention and hire practices, we have to have the salary comparable to that. We knew this going in. We knew it's not going to be easy going in with this budget and with that. And so I'm so happy that you've answered my questions all week long, calling you, and Mr. Domer, again, appreciate us meeting about this and really going over that. But this was part of the whole package and deal that we went through in the very beginning. So I want to make sure our residents know that this isn't something, this has been what we've talked about from the very beginning, that where we're at, how much it's going to cost, and the price of going county was a lot more. And we're getting a lot more from it from our own fire department. So pleased with that, and pleased what you're doing and all of our men and women are doing in the fire department to making sure that we're safe, and then making sure our businesses are safe. We've had multiple fires since you've been on, house fires that we never had before. Before was like, oh, that's only the numbers in case that happens. It happens. We've seen it in our businesses as well, and making the automatic aid. And so that we're keeping all our residents, our businesses safe, but we have to go in there and check them beforehand. So the prevention, so it doesn't happen again or the next one. And so hiring someone and to find that candidate fully approved.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I think it's important to understand that, or if you guys will remember in our standards of cover and community risk analysis, it spoke directly to this. We needed to grow our administrative staff. We needed a community risk reduction plan put together and staff accordingly. So we've gone that direction. Not only did we not have the capacity to keep up with all these inspections, which now we've added that body, but we also have somebody who is going to be focused holistically on community risk reduction, not only for life safety, environmental safety, but also our economic tax base, right? We lose businesses, that's tax base as well. So just like I told you guys when I got here, I'm never going to come to you and ask for anything that I can't back up or substantiate with data or science. And every move we've made to this point has been directly out of that study, which also just so happens to be in line with my beliefs. So.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Lau.
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on some of the comments that Mayor Pro Tem Crosby made with respect to, we knew this was coming. So we appreciate the constant communication about what is happening. It is unfortunate that we lost our fire marshal before a year, but it doesn't decrease the need to have one. So, I think the only, thing I would add to the commentary is that, we've got businesses and folks who, you and I have talked about this that are, oh my gosh, like, why am I all of a sudden getting charged for this? Like, what's going on? And, and I think the communication portion of it is important, that this isn't a punishment. This isn't, we're coming after you. It's really, we're protecting our community to make sure that incidents don't happen, because it doesn't just happen to one person, right? Fires can spread very easily. They can be very dangerous. And so, we're really making sure that we have that ounce of prevention, which is going to be worth so much more than a pound of cure. So, I just want to make sure that we are reiterating and explaining to our businesses and our residents, what is happening. And I think this is very informative. And I think the key about this too is the sustainability, that this is something that can support itself, that we are seeing that this is something that we can continue to grow on based on what we can do here. So appreciate all the efforts, appreciate the communication, and would just appreciate, again, just more education out to the community as we're hearing some of the feedback from folks. So.
Yeah, and that's, and I can appreciate that. That's been a struggle, if you will. I have Jennifer, my front office analyst / executive assistant, secretary, event planner, you name it. She is a godsend to our department, and she's been really, really great. But she also runs a lot of our public engagement PIO. So we aren't fortunate to have a Holly like PD. She does a fantastic job, and she even helps us out a little bit. But to that end, that is going to be much of the duty of the community risk reduction specialists as well, because that is the core of their job, community engagement and education. So we will have a lot more interaction. And to that end, I do want to reiterate that I've told much of our business owners and residents, yes, they're getting bills now, but I didn't change any policy. Policies were always there. We are just now consistently billing. Those practices are, frankly, what I tell everybody is now I'm just doing my job. We rectify our fees because our fees were not accurate. So we just went back and took a look and did a deep dive and said, okay, well, we're going to actually rectify these and make sure we're cost recovering accordingly. And now we're just making sure we have a third party biller who is making sure that is happening consistently. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Lau. Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, I'd like to see what you're doing. I think getting a handle on the revenue side is important. It's just part of doing business.
Sure.
Yeah, agree.
Thank you. Councilmember Cash.
Now, Laverne Strong. So I can't say anything more than my amazing colleagues have said. For my large support for the fire department, for our city, I'm just glad and happy that we can keep our firefighters, city safe. It's very important to me. And we've got to just hopefully look forward to hiring somebody else that will willing to stay and be a part of the larger family. So I look forward to that and your recommendation, and we'll see what happens.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Cash. I want to say too that the nice thing about what's happening now with all of our departments, every one of them is everybody's communicating now, especially with new management, Mr. Domer. We need to communicate. We need to be ahead of the step on everything we do. Nuances, new ways of doing business. And I really like this. It's like a refresh, we call it, and I think it's so important that all of the departments are working so closely together now. And I think this is going to be very beneficial to our community and our residents in the long run, because we're going to be constantly morphing and doing what we need to do to stay ahead of the times. So I do appreciate that, but I appreciate your explanation. You're always available, although it sounds like we're gonna have to block Mr. Crosby because he calls so much, but other than that, we know.
It's on the
But no,
silence ring.
I think that's extremely important. Communication is important, and that's one of the things that for many years we didn't have. It was kind of secrets, and we don't have secrets here in Laverne. We're up here as an open body to explain to everybody what's going on and have open discussions. So, but I really appreciate that, and hopefully we can hire some really good people that want to stay within the salary structure and make your department even better.
I agree.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
With
you.
that, we'll close public comment and we go to motion. Need a motion?
Motion to approve resolution number 23-13.
Second. Councilmember Cash. Vote, please. Yeah, the show was good.
And that was approved 5-0.
Very good. With that, we move to public comments and oral communications. Anyone in the, we have two cards up here. So we have Mr. Gabaldon.
Good evening, council. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm just gonna get straight to the point. I've passed to you a couple things that I'll speak on tonight if I have enough time. The first thing I'm going to speak about is regarding what I've seen on video for the last couple of meetings regarding manners and respect for the speakers. I think that it's important that you demonstrate that you care and that you're listening to us, because I think fiddling around on your phones and things like that, as Mrs. Beauchamp had mentioned the last meeting, is rude. And as an example of that, I looked on the video, and I'm not going to pick on you for any other reason other than you did it, but the city attorney was on her phone for approximately 6 minutes at the 1 hour, 42-minute mark of the February 21st meeting when Mr. Reeves and Mr. Wilson were speaking. Perhaps if you were not doing that, you would have heard the answer from Lieutenant Dransfeld that it was out of his mouth by accident. I'm sure that the inspections at the homes were to be done. So that's where that came from, in case you were wondering. And then my second item is regarding proclamations. I've mentioned this before, but I think the city, in its effort to recognize and celebrate various cultures, that the city of Laverne would be better serve the purpose if those proclamations were not generally presented to a people's, but rather to a person who lives in Laverne and by their character, accomplishments, and service have earned the proclamation. If there is none, then no one is presented or not one is presented unless there's another deserving person who should receive that proclamation. I think to continue to present these to faceless, groups is not what we should be doing if we intend to serve the purpose of it. And then, Mr. Mayor, something I caught in the last meeting that I, with all due respect, I completely disagree with your direction to the audience that to not bother coming up and speaking if it was essentially, as you put it, if they had nothing new to say that might not be what you already heard from others, no need to rehash the subject. That is not what we're here to do. People who take the time to show up to this meeting deserve your attention for the entirety of the 3 minutes. And they also deserve the opportunity and are entitled to express their opinions and share their viewpoints. They live in the city too. And I think that if you just looked at those things, that would be great. And then lastly, to the comments that led this meeting before it started, I think I shared something with you that I think you should consider the hypocrisy of that statement and those words. If that is something that goes on in the city, that speaks exactly to what others who have, I guess, protested in your words, have said following the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gabaldon. Sherry Best. You having trouble? You too? We need waterproofing over here.
Little problem with water
Yeah,
tonight.
we have leaks over here.
I would like to thank Mayor Tim Hepburn, members of the city council and others for their demonstrated leadership in the form of announcement regarding the Pledge of Allegiance. Laverne residents must continue to engage in open and honest discussion about the need for civility in public discourse and respect for the flag as a symbol of American values. For all who attend city council and other public meetings, we must continue to limit our Pledge of Allegiance to what is actually contained in that pledge. When a difference of opinion occurs in public discourse, our goal must be to find a balance that is both protective and respectful. So I want to thank you all for the statement that was made at the beginning of our meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Best. Ms. Bocham.
The hypocrisy of the city knows no limit. Mayor Hepburn stated earlier that there was a snafu with the video. As he explained to myself and another resident of the city who questioned it, that it was the media company responsible for that. We both contacted the media company and we were told that the client controls the audio. So we all know that excuse was BS. Ex-mayor, Mr. Kendrick, wrote a letter complaining about my 4 words, both born and preborn, that I add to the end of the Pledge of Allegiance. There are numerous other people that have publicly complained, including ex-council member Mr. Davis, as well as others, which Mayor Hepburn made sure found its way to me. What's hypocritical about this entire situation, I thought Mr. Kendrick and Mr. Davis were voted out of office. I guess they're still running the show from behind the curtain. The other is how, if I were an African-American kneeling for the flag during the pledge, no one would dare complain in fear of being intolerant. But because the words I speak are for conservative Christian values, the city and others are trying their best to silence me. I thought this city was inclusive. This is a prime example of what is wrong with our society. Instead of just ignoring what you don't like or what you don't want to hear, like we used to do when we had mutual respect for one another, they do their best to try to silence those people. The explanation behind the reason I say those words is when someone dies, a doctor declares the official time of death when your last heartbeat takes place. So when a fetus has its first heartbeat, why is that not recognized as the beginning of life? For Christians and conservatives of other denominations of faith, they do recognize this as the beginning of life, and this is why they say those words. It is God Almighty himself, who is my Lord and Savior. He has bestowed upon me my inalienable constitutional rights as an American, and no one, including this council, can deny me of that. Current military, veterans, patriots, and those who appreciate the Constitution know all too well you cannot defend the flag and the freedoms of this country without the allowance for those to add or remove words to the pledge and or kneel for the flag. Many schools in California have tried to remove the part of the pledge, quote, under God, end quote. That is equivalent to my 4 small words, yet have a larger than life meaning. Going forward, if this council sees fit to continue to silence me, I will recite the pledge during my public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Bocham. Anybody else on public comment? Yeah. Mr. Bassler.
The reason why I came in was I read an article in the Daily Bulletin about the CCW review and it costing more for Laverne residents and such. And I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that some of the safest people on the streets are CCW carriers. They are trained to know when and when not to shoot. Shooting is a last resort and only when there's no one downrange they could accidentally hit. And if you look at crime statistics, fewer crimes are committed by those with CCWs than even police officers. And we ought to be encouraging people to have CCWs within the city of Laverne. And how we do that is finding the minimum possible cost to get there, rather than, from what I understand, one of the highest costs around. But that was the primary reason why I wanted to talk today, why I showed up. But those that know me in the city know I'm a very patriotic person.
Mr. Bassler, you can,
Okay.
thank you.
Known from the patriotic motorcycle salute on the 4th of July, very conservative. I know beyond a shadow of doubt, I would have been aborted had it been legal at the time. The kneeling for the flag by Kaepernick and such, the reason why that created such an uproar was not the protest. It was the association with the national anthem. That somebody would associate something with the flag salute, whether I agree with it or not, is just as offensive. And I appreciate that you guys have taken the stand that you have. I'd like to see that continue.
Thank you, Mr. Bassler. Anyone else for public comment? Ms. Kalusa.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council and City Staff. My name is Kathy Kalusek on Third Street. I wanted to take a moment to thank you for arranging to have our Pledge of Allegiance led by our wonderful veterans. It makes the pledge far more meaningful when we're honoring our local heroes. I also want to thank you for the thoughtful statement that Mayor Hepburn made prior to the pledge. I and many others appreciate this. Whether or not others take it to heart, at least it makes a public statement to all that such addendums to our pledge do not reflect the views of our city, nor is it something that our city supports. So I appreciate all that you guys do. I know it's really hard work, and I appreciate that you're in the middle of this, and I know it's a drag, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kalusek. Anyone else on public comment? No raised hand. We'll close public comment and move it to the dais. Council comments. I want to make one thing real clear. I want to thank Councilmember Cash. He was the one that brought up the idea for our veterans to come and do the flag salute. So on your behalf, serving in the military, it is amazing, and I really do like it. And I think it was an amazing thing what you did. So thank you very much. That is correct. Council comments. Who would like to start? Council Mayor Pro Tem Crosby.
Coming in the next couple weeks, we have a bunch of activities happening in the city. Yvonne, sorry to put you on the spot there. When we did, because we didn't say it in our the Easter, the eggs.
Excellent. No, let's say it right. Excellent.
Yes. Yeah. Now she says the event's 9 to 12. The Easter egg hunt. A lot of awesome activities. So appreciate that. Our cool cruise and visit all our downtown businesses. And I know there's spring break is going to be happening for the school district that first week of April. So be careful of all the kids running around during that week and two. And everybody have a amazing couple weeks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Crosby. Councilmember Lau.
You mixed it up this week. So I just wanted to report back that I did get to attend the House of Ruth Gala beginning of this month. And for those of you that might not be aware of the House of Ruth, they do a lot of great work in terms of helping victims of domestic violence and their families. And so if you haven't had a chance to get to know who they are, they're a really incredible organization that connects people in need with great resources. So it was a really good event, well attended. There were some great testimonies from folks who've basically had their lives saved from having this organization provide them with access to legal support, housing, counseling, all sorts of things. And so it was a very moving event. And so if you don't know about that, it's pretty close in our backyard, and they do service all of our communities. So just something to think about. I also wanted to provide some information and share out that I was just at the Tri-Cities board meeting the other week. And one of the big things that is happening with them is that there are a lot of job opportunities available at Tri-Cities. So I wanted to share this, and I'll ask that maybe we can post it on our website or provide some sort of a link. But there's over a dozen different job opportunities available at Tri-Cities. And Tri-Cities does service our city, Claremont and Pomona, and does a lot of great work in the realm of mental health. And so they help veterans, they help the youth, they help the unhoused. You know, there's a lot of folks out there. So they're looking for anything from mental health specialists to workforce education and trainers, administrative assistants, psychiatric technicians, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a lot of opportunities. So I wanted to just share that here so that if people wanted to spread the word, if you know of anyone that would be qualified for these positions, great organization to work for. And again, it helps our city, it helps Claremont, it helps Pomona to make our community safer and better. So I also wanted to wish those who celebrate happy, and I apologize for my pronunciation, Nowruz. It's Persian New Year. So happy New Year. I was like, but you're going to get the pronunciation right. I didn't. And for all of those that got to see Tupelo, you could see why I love that dog. That dog is so sweet. But I will do the shameless plug again that if you do have a fur baby or a pet and you shop at Katie's Depot, Pet Depot, which, you know, shop local, they do have at the front counter an opportunity to donate to the Canine Foundation, and specifically to Tupelo. So if you want to buy her a treat or a toy, please feel free the next time you're in there. So with that, as always, be kind to one another. Hope you are enjoying the rest of this month. I cannot believe we are heading into April.
Thank you, Councilmember Lau. Councilmember Johnson.
I don't have much to add. I just wanted to ask our city attorney a question. I've started the CCW process and would like to know if that presents any type of conflict of interest. Should that come back to the dais?
Well, I actually started looking into this when you emailed me about it. It is a legislative matter that applies citywide. So typically that would not create a conflict of interest for you. But I am going to be contacting the FPPC because I want to make sure for your benefit and for the benefit of the entire city that that is the case. You're welcome.
Councilmember Cash.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. And thank you, Councilmember Lau. Acknowledging today is Nowruz. And also this Wednesday marks the holy month of Ramadan as it starts for a whole month. And I just let folks know a couple events that I attended actually over this weekend. I want to thank the County Assessor Jeff Prang for inviting me over to the Kashubian Unity Day at his house. It was a great and welcoming event. I really appreciated that time. And on Sunday, I attended the American Armenian Business Coalition charity event. And I was hoping to beat everybody in the shotgun tournament. Well, I came in dead last and my shoulder still hurts. So I still got to get out there better. You know, all skeet shooting. I'm not a good skeet shooter, but yeah, it was a great event. It was a great cause. And I always will support the American Armenian community here in Laverne. I wanted to acknowledge a couple of amazing freshmen from Damien who are national champions. And I will not get in a debate with them because they are national champions. And congratulations to freshmen Maddox Park and Brandon Park for winning the first year policy debate national championship at Woodward Academy in Atlanta, Georgia this weekend. This is Damien's first national championship in 35-year history of the first year policy debate tournament. So congratulations to those amazing young men. And I will not be debating you. Hey, good job, good work. And look forward to seeing you at the school for their acknowledgement. And thank you very much for you guys' time. Appreciate it. Stay Laverne strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cash. I just want to thank everybody in the audience and the people who are here. And we had a lot of wonderful celebrations today. And also, I want to thank our staff for a great job. This has not been easy picking up the pieces from the previous finance director. And it took a village to put it back together with a a small village for our finance department because limited staff. Had Christie and some help, but it also from all the other staff, every other director and all of the departments and the city management. We're a part of this to clean this thing up, and we're on the right track, and I do appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that people are willing to speak here. We have an open mic here. I can't recall of being mayor ever shutting anyone down and giving them ample time to speak what they wanted to talk about. And even getting nudged by Councilmember Lau, like you're over 4 minutes, 5 minutes, Deb. But the point is that we have an open forum here. We appreciate everybody's opinion, but we also have our own opinions. So with that, I appreciate everybody's. Yes, sir.
Oh, I just we do have rain starting later tonight. We will probably also have high winds. So I want to tell you that the mayor is going to have a good warning for everybody to be careful. And if there's down power lines, please call 911 or Southern California Edison. Just don't touch it. Also with the high winds and the super saturated soil, if you are outside and you hear cracking and other things and see a bunch of squirrels jumping from a tree, get out of the way of the tree. But also, please do call Public Works. So if there is a down tree, please call 909-596-8741. Or of course, if it fell on a house or on a car, please call 911. So that's just a prelude, Mayor. You can continue on.
I think that I appreciate that. I actually, all kidding aside, I was going to say that this is supposed to be a large storm. It's supposed to be a cold storm, snow between a 4,000 and 3,500 foot level, but the possibility of 2 to 4 inches of rain. We've had a lot of trees that are just falling over now because with the drought, the roots are on the surface. So do some inspections. And Mr. Domer was very poignant on if you have power lines that do drop, stay in place, do not move. That is the most important thing because electricity travels through everything. So if it does go down, whether you're in a car, keep your hands to yourself, call 911, don't do a thing. You're in your house, stay in your house because North Laverne, it's all underground. South Laverne, mid-level, it's all overhead. So, and we have some big trees here. So let's just all be careful. Make sure that the standing water, get it out of your yard if you got it. But again, hopefully this is the last hurrah, but who knows? We've had so much rain. So happy spring. Oh, it's the first day of spring too. Yeah.
Just to clarify too, I think sandbags are still available
At the fire
at the
station.
fire station. Is that accurate? That there's still, are there still sandbags for residents?
Fire station 1 in the corner.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's 10 bags per resident, I believe, right? Okay, so if anyone needs them.
So anyway, with that, just be careful tonight. And again, thank you for the conversation. I appreciate everybody's comments. And with that, we'll adjourn to Monday, March 27th at 5:30 p.m. for a closed session in Laverne Hall for the following. City Council will meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957-6 for the following. Conference with labor negotiators, city manager, assistant city manager, and city attorney, employee organizations, Laverne City Employees Association, Laverne Police Officers Association, Laverne Police Middle Management Association, Laverne Firefighters Association, and unrepresented employees. Our next regular city council meeting will be on Monday, April 3rd at 6:30 p.m. We adjourn tonight at 8:12 p.m. Thank you all for being here.